Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mental Health Matters, the podcast that promotes the breakdown of stigma, as well as talking about mental health, just making it okay to talk about. And that's one of the greatest things about that. This podcast is that we're able to just kind of have conversation, and the goal of creating conversation around the dinner table where mental health topics come up and nobody is judged. And as always, we have enlightening and entertaining guests on, and today is no exception. We have, as you can hear, they're already ready to roll. So we have the Lovewell Foundation, which is Sarah Springer and Amanda Bollenbach. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
We are doing well here, too. So we are very excited to have you guys on today, and hopefully we'll have just some good conversation. So, I looked at your Facebook page, and, the thing that stood out for me right away is 2 moms on a mission.
Yeah.
So when I read that, and I was like, I don't care what the mission is, that could be scary, right? So you don't...
There could be a lot of depth to that.
Yeah. Exactly. So, you just don't mess with 2 moms on a mission. So
yes, right.
I think that's a great way, but definitely definitely the mission though is mental health awareness, community support, and with some focus with postpartum depression, as well as just helping people find a way and to navigate some of that. But anyway, let's get started. Why? First of all, how did you guys come together to form this foundation?
So we can start from a year ago. Yeah. So I actually have a small t-shirt business I run out of my house, kind of on hold right now. But Sarah came to me and she had an idea for a t-shirt, which was, it said #StopHate. She was just a mission, a message she wanted out there. So I decided to make it for her, and she was not the only one who wanted a shirt that said Stop Hate. From there, we decided to sell the t-shirts and give the proceeds back to some of our favorite charities. Megan Meyer Foundation was one of them. Yep.
Awesome.
And Pacers Bullying Prevention Center. We did the Stop Hate shirts. Those proceeds went to the Pacers Foundation, and then we did Kindness Matters shirts. After that went to Megan Meyer.
Yes. So we were kind of pulling shirts in for the kids at this point. We just had people were like, "Oh, that's a great message. We want to." Buy some of these and we'll give back. And we just didn't want the fun to end, I guess. We just liked giving back. And from there, Sarah decided, maybe we should have our own nonprofit and focus on mental health. And that's kind of where Lovewell came from.
Awesome.
Something that, 20 years in the making of me dealing with mental health issues and stuff. And it's interesting now that I've, been talking about it more, which when you say, you should just be talking about it, dinner conversation kinds of stuff. I have people coming to me who know me, and they're just like, "You're doing too much," and they're worried about me, and they think that now that I'm talking about it, that it's new, and I'm like, the only thing that's changed over the last 20 years, seriously, is that I'm saying it out loud and I'm telling you about it.
True.
So I'm just trying to there's a kind of it's not, I don't want people to get the feeling you have to it's not the feeling of revealing a deep dark secret, because that's kind of how it felt. I'm really telling the world my inner demons and that sort of thing, and it shouldn't feel like a deep dark secret, and it shouldn't feel people are going to judge us and then that sort of thing, that we're not competent to do our jobs or be moms, or we should just be able to say it's not an exclusive club either, it's not only some people have this,
Yeah.
So it's just there's so many people, and as I've been a mom and just over the years and stuff, people come we'd just be talking and be like, "Oh my God, me too, me too," and there's so much of that, that moms just feel not just moms, but people in general with anxiety, depression, and things like that, that
there's a wall there.
And you just are wow, you're not alone. There's just so many people. So if you just talk about it more and just, that's why we want to break down that stigma, because it's just it can be a big deal, but it's not a big enough deal that you have to harbor it on the inside. And not tell anybody.
Because what happens then when we harbor it on the inside, right? It just boils and boils and builds, and
and it always feels worse.
And then we're not our best. We're not that good parent. We're maybe slacking as an employee, as a spouse. If you put those walls up. So the more you talk about it. Which isn't easy at all, but the more stories we share and people come forward with their stories on our blog, it's there's just this connection. So
So being two moms on a mission, right? So how many kids? We were talking beforehand, and so between both of you, how many kids do you have? Yeah, you just started rattling off ages.
Just kept going.
Yeah.
We have 8 between the two of us.
Between the two of you,
Yes.
wow.
Small band.
So it's some good experience with being a mom and navigating.
Oh yeah.
So-
Sarah's got all sorts of advice. It's like, been there, done that. So I think that's why she makes like the best partner to be in the foundation with like this. So it's.
So your ultimate mission with the foundation is what? How would you describe it?
Well, I would say our mission statement itself is that we want to provide free counseling for eligible individuals, because for us, we felt like one of the ways people weren't getting help is the financial aspect of it.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, we both have experienced that with ourselves, even getting help for some of our kids. Those phone calls can be kind of heartbreaking when you hear how much it can cost to get the help that your kid needs,
Your
or
insurance
yourself.
doesn't take it.
So that part of our mission statement is we want to provide the free counseling. So that's where our fundraising comes in, such as like when we sold t-shirts, and we still do that now. Building a center of hope and compassion through community engagements, and then educating to stand against the mental health stigma. So that is all part of our mission.
So with the stigma, because that's, as an agency, St. Louis Counseling, which I'm with, of course, that's one of our goals, right? Because we know it's a problem. We know from the rural areas to urban areas, it's a problem. And no matter who you are culturally, still a problem. So, I've heard you guys say, like, we want to stand up and talk about it. What, and like you said originally, when, people are saying like, wow, is this really going on now? And you're like, no, it's been going on forever. I'm just now getting more boisterous about it and talking about it. What gave you the courage to just start talking about it?
It was a really good question, because I've been battling, every time I share a story about it, I'm just like, it's still a struggle. So I think really just in realizing, I mean, there's also women out there on social media who really are, I would say, paving the way, that I see, doing things that they're sharing their stories and stuff, and you just think, wow, that really made a difference to me. And if it's making an impact to me, imagine what my story can do for somebody else. So it's not really like all of a sudden I got the courage and now I'm cool and go share everything, like it's just more like, okay, this is why I'm doing this, is to let people know that, because there is, I guess, a certain perception when you are a working mom and, you have a marriage and all of a sudden people think you must have it all together, and then you start a foundation and they're just like, God, you do everything,
Yeah, you're perfect.
But it's you're perfect, and it's like far from it. And the reason why we're doing this is to let people know they're not alone in their things. And, people are like, you do too much and stuff, you just think, if I don't do it that much, my anxiety gets bad. So it's kind of a way for a coping mechanism for me too.
Yep, I think we're both the same on that. We like to stay busy. Weirdly, we kind of thrive on chaos sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have learned to say no a lot. We were talking about that on the way here. The power in the word no.
Yes.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Yes.
So
But it's not, I guess it's like an ongoing process to be open about it. It's not really just, so we just decided though that I think it was important enough for us that since we struggle with it, that we need to talk about it.
Definitely. So with stigma in general, right? When you guys are talking about being a mom, the pressure of being a mom, because I'm not a mom, right? But I know things and I've heard things, but there's this constant pressure of one, controlling the household, right? Being in charge of that. There's a lot of expectations for that. Working, making all the right decisions, giving the right advice. How do you guys how do you navigate that? Now that we have two moms in the room and they're just willing to just say, yeah, I'm tired of that, right? I'm tired of having to do all that. But I mean, how do you do that?
Oh my gosh, my husband would be like,
lose your expectations, first of all. Always have some sort of plan B. And I think just being a parent I don't quite have a teenager yet. I have an almost 12-year-old, so I feel like I've got some years under me. And just like knowing when to ask for help, first of all, knowing you are not alone, having a good group of friends. I think sometimes we talk about our love-hate relationship with social media. It can be helpful, It really can if you find the right group, like a Facebook support group. Those are big with moms. For me, it helps picking up the phone and calling a friend, honestly. If I need some sort of direction or help, just getting the words out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think structure, like you know how they always say with kids, like get them, feed them at a certain time, put them down for a nap, like they thrive on that structure to know what to expect. And I've been realizing that I'm the same way. I still need like a structure, like, okay, I have to wake up in the morning and I have to do this, this, and this, get my kids ready, get myself ready, have breakfast, you know, and it's just like, if I veer off of my schedule, I'm just kind of like, you know, you just get lost, you don't know what to do. So I think having some structure is important too, and trying to manage everything, and just like having that support from family, friends, husband. Just, I think, and as a working mom, because you know, you have a spouse who's also working for a lot of us, and then they're so tired because they've been working all day, and then you're so tired because you've been working, and then just being careful not to get into this competition of who's more tired.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's like we both just need to contribute to these children. And
Yeah. So I think a lot of times, and then when you look at societal stereotypes, you go back years and years, of course, but then it's like, but you may work, but you're still supposed to control the household and make all those decisions. So, I think males may be getting better over time, right, with that, but that's still very prevalent. I think that still, like, I know you work, but you're also supposed to take care of the kids.
And I actually saw a post, or I don't know if it's a meme or what you call it, but a quote that said that we expect moms to work like they don't have kids, and we expect them to be parents like they don't work. Yeah. And it's so true. It's like, to try to balance work and being a mom is really, really a challenge. I think, like she was talking about setting boundaries and saying no. So I just was like, I can't work 5 days a week. I can't manage everything. So cutting back to 4 days a week, and just like, finding what works for your family and for yourself mentally and physically and financially.
Conversation. Good, healthy conversation to figure those things out. So, one, being a mom is difficult, right? But two, pregnancy, and then after pregnancy, and we see more and more, with postpartum depression, I think there's more and more people acknowledging it. This morning on the news, I couldn't get to my phone quick enough. I just switched to streaming TV, right? So I can't rewind on it, all right? So it's really been an adjustment. So I had the CBS News on, and they showed this stat about postpartum depression, and I don't remember all, but I was like, oh, it's perfect. I'm going to be talking to some moms today that might have some experience on this. And I couldn't get to my phone to take a picture of it. Can't find it on the website anywhere. And so it all just backfired. So anyway, but it was a sign of a good podcast. That was a sign this morning we're going to have a good podcast. But what do you guys see when you're talking with friends or your own experiences with postpartum? Do you think, one, that it's being more accepted and acknowledged? And two, what's that? I don't know if you guys have experienced it or not, or know of, firsthand knowledge, but what's that? Can we describe that, I guess, for people listening out there?
Like what postpartum depression is?
Yeah, and for some of us slower males who just may not get it,
I'll let you take this one. I know you're very passionate about talking about postpartum.
It's really a very lonely, confusing time when you're going through postpartum depression, because it always was confusing for me, because you have this whole pregnancy and this 9 months of like anticipation and excitement and build up to bringing home a new baby, and then all of a sudden you're not pregnant anymore. Like, you within 12 hours the baby's out, and now you're supposed to just be a parent, and you're supposed to, like, all that build up is gone, and so there's a lot of apprehension, and you're supposed to be excited, and maybe your spouse is looking at you like, why are you crying? Like, there was a time with my daughter, I couldn't look at her for like 3 weeks. I just burst into tears. I really felt like I could not look at her. And it was just like, I don't know what to do next. Like, you spend all this time thinking about pregnancy and everything, and then now you have a baby. It's a really hard transition to go from one to the other. And so you get a lot of guilt and wondering like, well, why am I not happy that I just had this healthy, beautiful baby? And why do I feel so alone? And why don't I want to leave this room? Why am I like, with my first, I just kept him, we would just lay in bed all day, stayed in the bed. I was scared to leave our room, and stuff. So it was just it's confusing, and it's hard because people don't understand like why, especially I feel like they don't understand, gosh, I don't even know how to say it, like how how like lonely it can feel and how they can help, because people want to make it better. So they just want you to feel better. So they just want to help you do something. And it's just like, most of the time I just want to be like left alone to feel it and process it. And so I think it's just hard.
Do you think it was hard when like Lance would go back to work, or before that it was, because I know some people say when it was time for their spouse to go back to work, because a lot of times, and this is another issue, a lot of people don't get a lot of maternity leave. Very few people get paternity leave. So you have this new mom, if they don't have support around them, you know, like a friend nearby or a relative, and they are alone with a baby, it can be extremely isolating, which I think is what I felt the most. It was not having somebody close by, you know, as soon as my husband was off to work, a week later, that's it.
Wow.
I actually always preferred when my husband went back to work, only because I could just sulk, honestly. Like, I just felt like when he was around, I really was trying to hold it together and not cry and not do all these things. And when he wasn't there, I was like, I could just like let out all the emotions that I felt. And I don't know, I'm not saying that's like a healthy thing or anything like that. I'm just saying that, you know,
we all deal with it differently.
We all deal with it differently.
It's a nice reframe there, yes.
Yeah. It really wasn't until, I mean, I want to say probably, he knew I had trouble with depression, obviously, and ongoing and stuff. And I started antidepressants right when my kids were born each time, because I just was terrified of postpartum depression anyways. And it got worse with each pregnancy. In fact, I feel like I'm still struggling. I know that my daughter's almost 3, so I'm not technically postpartum anymore, but I just feel like I'm starting to come out of that fog a little bit. And the more children that I had, I think my husband realized that I wasn't as available emotionally. The more kids you have, you know? And so once he was sort of like, I didn't really see it as a problem. I didn't know that it was happening. I was sad and I was scared and alone and all these things, but I didn't know that it was something that maybe I didn't know. So until he was like, you know, you don't have a lot of patience. You're irritable in situations that maybe aren't really appropriate, and you know, you seem to just be a little tearful, or you know, until he brought up, it's like, are you saying there's a problem?
Yeah, exactly. You know? Yeah, that's a delicate conversation, right?
You did that pretty good, I think.
I mean, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Yeah,
it could turn.
It can. So I mean, there are a lot.
How would you suggest, okay, for our male listeners out there, or for just partners, right? How would you suggest somebody bringing that concern? And I know everybody's different, but how, for someone that's dealing with that, right? How would you want that presented?
I would want it presented as a concern for the family. If you're sort of pointing fingers and saying you have a problem, you know, you need to get help. You know, you're taking this person who already feels like they're not doing enough, they're not doing well, and making them feel like they are as bad as they feel. So I think, you know, just the family dynamic, bringing it up as a we're in this together, makes a really big difference.
Or just the words, I'm concerned.
I'm concerned.
How are you feeling? Like, you know, what does it feel like to be home with the baby? Like, you know, just putting that wall down, you know, just having someone just straight up ask you, how are you dealing with it? And listening. Sometimes we don't always want advice. We just want to vent.
I've heard that before.
You can't vent that.
I've heard that before.
Just saying things out loud sometimes is therapeutic itself, you know.
Right.
But without wanting solutions right there, you know. Because sometimes just getting the words out is the hardest part. And I think you can agree with that, you know, when you finally let that wall down and just let it all out, and that itself feels great, you know. And knowing, okay, someone else feels like this too, or there's people you can talk to.
As a you know, as a clinician and as a male, it's very the topic of postpartum depression and perinatal, even, you know, going into that, I mean, it's very intriguing because it's hard to fully understand it, you know. And so I was talking to some folks over at WashU at their perinatal behavioral health service over there, and you know, she mentioned, you know, she goes, I go, do males ever come in for counseling? And she goes, yeah, they can technically get that. And I'm like, I would never admit that, because I'm like, I wouldn't go in saying, hey, honey, I've got some postpartum depression. I want to go get some help. I'd be afraid to say that to my wife. And she knows why, too. But just kidding. She's probably listening. But I think, with the resources that are out there, and like you said, maternity leave isn't long, paternity leave sometimes doesn't exist, and that support mechanism. And, as a male, I think we have to understand that what you guys went through is one remarkable. But when you described, like you're carrying this person around with you for that many months, and then all of a sudden it's no longer there, and how we can relate to that in a very, very joking and subtle way. It's like, for a kid that's looking at that present at Christmas time for the month it's underneath the tree and is so excited. Every single day you look, this is how I'm trying to relate it. It's like, then all of a sudden it's opened, it's gone. We know what Christmas evening's like, all the anticipation's gone. And for you to be able to kind of articulate that really kind of helped me understand, okay, I can see that, in that sense.
And the focus changes too about the mother. I mean, when you're pregnant, people will, they're concerned, like, you're feeling okay, you're getting enough rest, you're eating well, and then the baby's here, and then the focus is on them, and sometimes we neglect the mom. And we still need that support, the rest, and that's, I think, has a lot to do with it too. Especially nursing moms. You have a colicky baby. I mean, lack of sleep can make huge changes in the way you act, and you don't even know what's going on,
Yeah, and a lot of times with mental health, when we're, seeing a client for the first time, right, we're looking at a couple different things right off the bat: sleep, nutrition, and exercise, because those three things together can make a world of impact just on your normal mental health. And for a mom, right, there's probably not going to be a lot of exercise right afterwards. Nutrition could be iffy, what you're going to eat or not eat, or what you want to eat. And then sleep, or have time to eat even, right? And then sleep, forget about that, right? Yeah.
So all that together, I think, is a recipe for, if you already have the baby blues, can lead right into postpartum. I mean, it's a perfect recipe for something just to feel not right. And it can go on the spectrum of having baby blues, which I think is more where I fell. So with postpartum, like Sarah sharing her story, is very different from what I felt. And as a mom, it's heartbreaking to hear your friend talk like that, and that it's been going on this long, So, and she's not the only one, and we do get more stories are coming out that people are sharing the postpartum, and now I think we just read an article about how doctors are starting to screen more for that. Which is amazing.
And our pediatrician did that too, although I she would ask me questions and I had to rate myself, and then but I was like, first of all, I feel like what to say, so that you don't, again, it goes back to the stigma, you don't want anyone to think that you're not doing well, that you're suffering, so you're just like, I'm fine. So one, you have to be honest on the screening tools, because they don't do any good if the patients aren't being honest. But then it's like, well, then what are you going to do with that information? So then if I answered all this, were they going to refer me to someone? Were they going to, what were they going to do with it? Just acknowledge, yes, that sucks.
Yeah, you got that.
You have a problem. What are you going to do?
Or worst case, if you already are an anxious person, and you're like, are they going to take my baby away?
And that's the worst part, I think, of it, is that the fear of what's going to happen if you go get help. Because, I feel like a lot of people are ready to point their fingers and condemn moms. And not just moms, but just people in general. People who are suffering, people who have mental health problems, just want to be like, they're more likely to be aggressive or violent. Or, it's like all these unfair things are attached with having. Because
that's what gets publicity sometimes, is the person who shoots up this place, or kidnaps their kid, and it's like, and then the mental illness is tagged onto that, and then all of a sudden we associate criminal behavior or something with mental illness, and then everyone who has mental illness is, you're one step away, and it's just not the case, you guys are saying. Do you think there's, going back to when you talk about the baby blues, I guess, first of all, and then we talk about postpartum, there's this continuum then that's built, right? And then with that, I think that's where it's important to realize, okay, at what point do we go and get help as well too? And maybe as a screening tool, and maybe it's just listening to somebody as well too, when or you sharing and then kind of listening to some feedback, whether it be a doctor or, you know, a loved one. But I think that's where that communication piece is so enlightening for all of us, because people who are, you know, if we can articulate how we're feeling, then others can hopefully then share some intervention possibilities.
And really even just recognizing, like, when you hear people talk about it, you're like, wait a second, like, so, because you don't always realize, like I was saying earlier, like that it's a problem, that something is off. You just feel like you're in this black hole and you're never going to get out, and that's just the way that it is, you know. And so if people aren't pointing it out to me, like, I don't know, when people ask me, like, well, what made you get help? What made you do? It's just like, I really don't know. I can't pinpoint it to a moment where I was like, okay, now I know I really have a problem. You know,
I mean, I guess there's
just
be those breakdown moments. You do hear about it, like where they find themselves on the floor of the bathroom, I mean, like just hysterical, you know.
Yes.
You do hear about those moments.
And I've had a few of those.
Right. Well,
but a lot of times it's someone else pointing it out to you that, you know, that like, you just don't seem like yourself lately, or so, is something going on, you know, because we get so in our own heads, it's hard for us to be able to say that not only do we have a problem, but we need help. It's not just who we are now.
I think my turning point, and not with postpartum, but just with depression and anxiety in general, is the irritability and then the sleeping. Like, you know, those were two things I could point out that I was like, I'm not normally like this, or I always want to do this, which was the sleeping. So when you kind of find those characteristics that you're like, I really wasn't like that before, that was when my turning point, like, okay, I think I need to look into this, because it's not healthy to be, you know, irritable, upset all the time once I recognized that. So
that was hard for me too, because I had so many kids so close together. I think I was either pregnant or in a postpartum period.
Oh,
you know,
goodness,
But it was almost like, maybe this is just how I, like, maybe this is my new personality. This is how I am as a mom. You know, I'm just someone who has no patience, and why I thought I could have kids, I have no idea. All that kind of stuff. You know, so it's hard also sometimes to recognize that that is a change, because you have so many changes going on. So it's like, well, is it a normal change that happens, or is that something that's concerning? So if we're talking about it, then people can be more aware of what a normal progression should look like versus what postpartum depression.
Yes, and the patterns that go with it. Do you think there's any? Okay, this could sound weird, right? Because grieving, a lot of times we talk about death, but at the same time, it's about missing and something that's not there. So going through maybe some grieving process after the birth of a child?
Every time I did. It was so hard for me. I was like, I didn't record it enough. I didn't take enough pictures. How is this moment already over? Like, over analyzing my birth process, everything. Yeah,
I still do that. Like, I still will look back and get upset with myself, or you didn't take enough pictures. Well, you were the one having the child. Where was everything in the room, you know?
Yeah, selfie stick.
Come on now, you know.
Yeah.
Why do we do that?
I don't know. We are hard on ourselves, but no, definitely feeling like you have this, like, and even I think it's hard. Maybe that's why I have 5 kids, because you know, you're just like miss being pregnant, you know, and you're just like this whole, I don't know. It's once the baby's out, then you're just kind of like, now what? You know, so there is. I felt very sad after all my deliveries, which was hard and confusing, because you have a beautiful, healthy baby, and you're thinking, I should just be happy. I should, you know, I have everything I need, but in the inside, you're just thinking, like, I really kind of wish it was yesterday, and I'm still pregnant, you know, and then I can feel the baby kick, or yeah, it's hard.
Wow.
It's really hard.
So you know, as we're talking, I'm just listening to the theme of communication. You know, I've said it a couple times, but communication is such a vital component with the support system if you're going through these sad times or whatever. And in communication, in the sense that people need to be checking in on you guys as well too. You guys, you know, women who are who just gave birth. I mean, there needs to be that level of it. And we talk about you know, there's screening tools now that doctors are recommending pre and post birth for moms. But at the same time, I mean, is there other things that you guys would think of that during the process and then going into motherhood, right, that you would want, any other interventions that you would see from just the time from your experiences?
Do they, and I'm asking because I can't remember, do we typically get a call from like a nurse afterwards? That is something.
Did.
You did, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They do call check on you like 2 days after you get discharged, something like that. And then there's lactation consultants who are available to help you if you're nursing and that sort of thing. I think that we probably don't do a great job at preparing moms for the changes that are about to take place.
That was something we actually talked about at work yesterday, was the things that happen after birth or during that you just were not prepared for.
No, like, so, and this, you've never loved anything more, instant attachment. Basically, when my kids came out, I was like, it's like a person. Like, what just happened? Who is this person? Like, I'm supposed to know you, you know? And so there's this romantic idea associated with giving birth and stuff that I think is not real. You know, a lot
sometimes
I
think that's the expectation too.
Yeah.
Also, you know, and it's hard to talk about because I haven't been on that level of postpartum, you know. So like after I had my babies, I think I was very fortunate to have that connection, you know, with them. And I think just for me to deal with was that after like when I said like my husband was gone, that isolating effect. And so sometimes I think more about like single moms come to mind. I really do. People who don't have that support, I think my heart goes out to them a lot. Because I just can't imagine not having someone, you know, there to kind of relieve, to kind of vent to when they come home. You know, like when my husband walked in the door, I'd be like, here's the baby, let me go do what I need to do, you know, take care of myself.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point because, you know, we know mental health touches everybody, right? Yes. So then we talk about if you do have the support system, but what about the single moms, families that are in poverty, all those resources that are out there, and then coming back to what you guys originally talk about is the Love Will Foundation and its ability to try to raise funds to help people that to just pay for counseling, let alone psychiatry, right? Because we know psychiatry is even more expensive than counseling. But I think that's one of the issues as well too, because postpartum is going to touch, doesn't matter what economic level you're in, it's going to, and just mental health, as we said, is going to do that. And, you know, and that's where, you know, I think legislation over the past years, you know, was talking about extending benefits for moms on Medicaid to be able to have for mental health, because they realize, you know, 2 weeks post-birth just isn't going to cut it, or 1 month. You know, there needs to be another level of services for people, and to acknowledge that affects women, it affects, of course, moms, but it's just another level of society where the inequalities with gender as well sometimes too just comes into play. So we are here, of course, Mental Health Matters, talking to the Love Will Foundation, Sarah Springer and Amanda Bollenbach. So I know you guys have done a trivia night. I was snooping around in your Facebook, right? Yeah. Do you guys have other things coming up that's kind of an exciting world?
So we are working on, we already have it, we call it Shop Love Will. So we have a jewelry line by May Jewelry, which we love. They have great messages with each piece you buy. Like, for example, I'm wearing this necklace that says, everything happens for a reason.
Amen.
Yes.
Milestone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Sarah's wearing a milestone ring. So we just thought it would be great to partner with another, they're based out of Atwater Village in California, but it's one very passionate woman who decided to make jewelry with a great message. So we have partnered with them to sell pieces to fund our mission, which is to give back to the free counseling. So we're building up our shop right now. The website's still under construction. We have someone helping us with that. Right now, it's just really Sarah and I doing both of everything. So
Wow.
Getting some helping hands, which is great.
You overachievers.
Yeah. So we did love the trivia night was great though. So we would love to do another trivia night probably in the fall.
Yeah,
2019.
And then we started with East Special Needs, a support group for siblings and families of children with special needs. So that's kind of once a month thing, and it's actually the founder is actually a friend of mine named Lindsay, and so she's really taken the lead on all of that. But just kind of like, because mental health isn't just like anxiety and depression, you know, it's like this whole spectrum of things. Like, people need support in all kinds of situations, and mental health matters everywhere.
Oh, look at that. Mental health matters. Oh, man. That may be our new commercial. Yeah. You fell right into it.
So the East Special Needs, it's parents and siblings group is what we do once a month, and they get together, and these are, this is a very different audience that Sarah and I are. We do not have children with special needs, but being in the room with those parents is very eye-opening, and they have a different level of support that they need too. So we're there with them to give support and hopefully put some more support groups together. I know we want to work on a postpartum group for new moms, just to get them out of the house.
Yeah, that alone, right?
And we didn't even touch on that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Getting out of the house, self-care.
Yes.
Meeting a friend for coffee, and that would be a great goal, to get a postpartum group together. So we have many ideas.
Just try to narrow it
but
down.
the shop love well is something that is building up, and we do have an inventory. It's just working on the website right now.
Okay.
So, and then the trivia night in the future.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, you guys are making impact. I mean, that's the bottom line. And, you're taking the time to tackle this huge issue, which is getting better and better, right? We know more celebrities are coming out and talking about mental health. And, of course, we always put celebrities up on the pedestal, no matter if they need to be there or not. But, when somebody speaks and they're acknowledging they've had mental health, or, let's not judge, or this has happened to me, then we know that media gets a hold of it and it's out there. And so the more and more conversations like that, the better. The more people like you guys that are out there that have experienced different levels of mental health and emotional health. And when you talk about that support group, for special needs, it's, I think that's some of the stuff people forget too, is the caregivers. And, we all have mental health, right? Our own baselines of it, but then some of us have a mental illness, and that impacts our overall mental health, and then that emotional health, and just the daily stressors of just our world, just working, living, having a family, not having a family, whatever it is. It all impacts us. So that's cool. You guys are looking at that as well too, and partnering.
And I really think too, because I have a lot of people tell me that what we're doing is geared towards women, which is always frustrating, I think, because men need help with mental health too, and there is such a stigma for men to be able to come forward and say anything, because then they're considered weak, or it's a women's disease, or those kinds of things. So I think kind of my unofficial mission too is to be like, this is for everyone. We are not just talking about women.
Because he had brought up the postpartum for men, and that is a thing. I mean, I know it is. There was actually a pretty popular show on TLC where one of the dads came out and actually had to get treated for postpartum. I mean, so we definitely feel like it does. It impacts everybody. It impacts the type of friend you are, parent you are, employee you are. Your mental health is just so important.
Yeah. It affects all parts of society. That's the thing, the economy. So, when you hear politicians debating back and forth, let's pull mental health out of there. And, we don't need to fund that. But it's like, well, there's a lot of mental health that comes into play in the unemployment rate. There's reasons why sometimes people can't maintain jobs. The criminal justice system and reform. So it's just like, oh man, let's look at it from a different angle. Fund mental health and maybe take away some of the other stuff.
And fund it and make it something we talk about early. I know that's another kind of thing that my heart goes to is kids. This is something I was unaware of, depression, anxiety, until I was literally sitting in a psychology course in school, and all of a sudden I'm having to give a presentation on panic attacks, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have a panic attack right there. But all of a sudden it's clicking, those words, we didn't talk about those things growing up, and if our parents were dealing with something, we didn't bother them with what was going on with us. So I think that's where I had that wall until I got older, and I said, I don't want my kids to feel like that. Because I think, wow, what more could I have done if I had been talked to about mental health as a kid,
Well, and even just not knowing what the options are, because I really, the first time I heard of counseling, so I really felt like I struggled with anxiety, depression really since I was 10, but it hit me really hard in my teens. And I didn't hear about anyone going to counseling until I was 17. I had a friend who was going to counseling, and I was like, so I asked your parents, like, they didn't think you need counseling, so.
Can I go to counseling?
I think I might need a counselor. No, you're fine. So teenage angst and all that stuff. But, but I think just knowing that what your resources are. At any age, because you hear all these kids doing things in high school. Did they know that there were options for them to seek help?
Or they don't like to feel the way they do. This is a conversation I have with my daughter. How do you feel when this happens? And she doesn't like it. Okay, well, we're going to look into this for you. If you don't like the way this feeling is when it takes over you, and because we deal with aggression and behavioral issues. We're going to look into it, because I don't want that to carry into her teens and into her adult life. Let's just talk about it now.
Right. Right.
So I do wish, and we see this everywhere, that, they should teach classes more on mental health younger.
Yeah. So St. Louis Counseling, we have office locations, and then we have therapists. We place therapists inside of schools, and so our next step is we would love just to get one school district or one individual school to spend a full quarter or a whole semester teaching mental health. Because, and at an early age too, and then maybe even as you get older, have this curriculum. Because, like health class, you might get a chapter on mental health or something like that. It's been a while since I've been in school.
Yeah.
But so you think about it on a couple levels, right? So we know we have a bullying problem in school. We know there's a lot of fear about school violence and school shootings because we've experienced that as a society. So what would happen if we taught kids, one, it's about acceptance of each other, and sometimes kids just think another kid is weird and they act like that because they want to, But the reality is, if that kid if they all understand what mental health is, like that kid's acting like that because he has trauma in his life. That kid is acting like so quiet and shy, not stuck up, but because they're depressed and their anxiety, they have low self-esteem, all of those things. And then here is like possible warning signs. When you see somebody acting like this, those are signs. Now, of course, we're going to have a lot of people going, that kid over there, that kid over there. And that's the fear, right? That's the fear. But it's like, yeah.
It's always... There's always something underlining, I think, is just the most important thing to realize. If something seems a little off, like, this child is acting out, or the behavior, aggression, or whatever is going on, dig deeper. There's always something deeper, and just for them to know, because I think, like as adults, we know we're stressed out. The kids are stressed out too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes I can't even imagine sometimes like how their days are, and they don't always tell us everything, So like just to have the discussion at school, like we love seeing the videos of people post, the teachers giving the high fives and the hugs and the, talk about their feelings. Like, can we just do that more, please? Just more of that.
Makes it easier.
Yeah, because people are so quick to judge and label, So it's like, that's where we kind of came up with like stop hate, kindness matters. It's like, stop just this quick, I'm angry, and then I don't agree with you, so now we have to have a war.
Put some understanding,
put some
empathy in there.
Exactly.
It changes your whole world perspective when you understand that.
Yes.
The reason people may act the way they do, and what is going on with them. Like there's something that.
Well, I remember being at a class reunion. I can't remember which one now, but it was a few years back, and I was talking to someone, and she was like, you never really talked much in high school to me. And I was like, well, I thought you were great, and you were all this, and you just reject me. I was afraid of rejection. And, and she was just like, I wasn't stuck up. She goes, I was just insecure. And she goes, now when I'm older, I know what I was. And I'm like, so me as a kid, like, I judged, like, that's the way you look and you must be that way, and I'm just going to move on and not even, I don't want to talk to you. But the reality is that person's just insecure. We could have been friends.
Right.
You could have been my wife. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I doubt she's listening anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it is so true when you realize it's not always about you. Like, take a second and think about what is going on? And sometimes that does drive my husband crazy because I'll be like, well, what if this person was just going through this? Or like, I guess you call it the glass, half full. But I mean, it does change things, You realize that you're not the only one that's got issues going on and baggage and
perspective. Yeah,
absolutely.
Such a complicated issue though, man. Because then, I was just thinking now that you have like parents who want to back up their kids and then they don't want to think about the other kids. So it starts at home too. Then it's like, how do you reach the parents? To make, they have to be understanding and kind and that sort of thing, and to teach that to their kids too. So it's like such a complicated issue.
Yep.
I feel like
It is. Now you're starting to overwhelm me, but I'm an optimist, so we're good.
Okay,
we're
good.
good.
The glass half.
We're
We're the
good.
overthinkers.
Yeah, good.
That was one shirt we had was "Hold on while I overthink this."
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's true. It all comes. It's full circle. It's really what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we have been blessed to have you guys on today. You guys have been great. And I'm thinking we're going to have you on again. I don't know when, but I want to bring you back.
To be continued, yes.
Yes, that's good. To be continued. But we are finishing up another episode of Mental Health Matters with Sarah Springer and Amanda Bollenbach from the Love Will Foundation. And please continue, look them up, go to Facebook. You can find their Facebook site just by typing in Love Will Foundation. And you can see some upcoming events there as well as those parenting classes. And we're just thankful to have you guys on. So
Thank you.
yeah, so this has been another episode of Mental Health Matters, and we will see you next time.
This has been Mental Health Matters with Tom Duff of St. Louis Counseling Services. Check out stlouiscounseling.org for more information.